Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Growth House Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jesse Ray. I'm here with my friend Jaina. And Jaina, I'm so excited because we're going to be talking about a topic that I am extremely passionate about, especially since I'm about to be gone on the road traveling for about 4 months. So let's start with this. What does your life currently look like? And then we'll take a step back into okay, how'd you get involved with travel hacking and traveling, etc.?
Sure thing. So, first of all, I wear many hats. Okay, so I still have a full-time W-2. So, a lot of people are like, how do you even do all this stuff? But essentially, I was able to create systems and automation with my W-2 so that all the projects that I do are very efficient. So I started investing in real estate in 2021, and my now business partner came up to me during that time and he was like, Yo, Jaina, I bought a house. And I was like, no way, because we live in Orange County, California. So I was like, how did you get a house, Paul? Right? He's like, no, 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 no. I got it in Evansville, Indiana, and it was 38K. And I was like, no way. So that's when I basically realized this whole world of out of state investing existed and that you could buy houses that are essentially less than the cars driving around in my neighborhood. Right. So that's really that kickstarted my real estate journey. And then, fast forward to today, I started a business with my friend Paul, and it's called Premier Host Management, where we co host midterm rentals and vacation rentals in 4 markets. So it's in San Diego, California, Montgomery, Alabama, Houston, Texas, and Cleveland, Ohio. So that's where I stand right now, essentially being one of those people that still has a W 2, but also invests in real estate on the side and is trying to grow their business.
That's awesome. So, real estate, you got the travel hacking, and then you mentioned one other thing. So, what is something that most people don't know about you?
Sure. Well, people who don't know me may not know that I'm actually a sports correspondent for an international media company. So I typically cover the Lakers and the Clippers because I'm based in SoCal, but sometimes I cover boxing.
And then when you say cover them, what exactly does that mean?
Like go to the games and do a full on live report of a recap of what happened during the game.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Is that your main W-2?
No, that's just something I do on the side too as a passion project because I genuinely love sports. So it's kind of wild, like going into the locker rooms and then talking to them and asking questions. It kind of just fell in my lap, honestly.
That's so cool. Tell me one fun story about having all that access.
Sure. So it freaking smells in that locker room.
I can imagine.
So this is a while ago. This was when, I mean, I don't want to talk bad about any player, but this is when, gosh, uh, 2000, maybe 18 or 19. It was in the Jazz. The Jazz are playing the Lakers. And it's just kind of wild that you know, they're just dressing, in front of you. Of course, you don't look. But what I've noticed as a female, it's, obviously very male dominated. I'm able to squeeze into the crevices and get myself in the front because they just let me. So I was like, yeah, that's a pro trying to get to the front because otherwise they're just, it's just kind of a weird situation. So I guess that would be a really interesting story. That it just smells. So it looks kind of fun and it is kind of fun, but also you have to remember, they just played a game and it's not like a clean environment.
I can imagine. Do you
Yeah,
know Mark Spears?
I do not. No. Is
Mark
he
Spears.
he's an announcer for the Lakers?
He uh he lives in San Jose. He's like one of the top guys for ESPN. There's a lot of stuff on. I forget what he does now, but Undisputed, I think, was like one of the main platforms that he was on. And so he's a friend of mine. So I was wondering if you knew him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he's got crazy stories. But let's get into this travel hacking thing.
Let's do it.
I hit you up and I was like, I'm about to be gone. I'm about to travel. It's going to be like $1,500 for this flight because obviously I don't prep or I don't, do too much travel hacking. So I just went on my Chase, rewards portal and was typing in some random dates. And you're like, let me help you out. So you sent me a Loom
Yeah.
video. And I'm like, wow, you know exactly what you're doing. And you pretty much were able to save me like 50 to 60%, if not more, on the ticket that I was looking at. So let me ask you this. How'd you get started into travel hacking? And then we'll dive into it.
Sure thing. So, travel hacking started for me when I was trying to start my business, actually. It kind of came at the same time. And me and my business partner were really into courses and learning through coaching. And we started this program called Freedom Travel Systems, which essentially showed you how to create an infrastructure for your regular business expenses and how to get business funding. And then use that infrastructure to generate all these points so that you could travel for nearly free. So that's essentially how it started. And then once I joined that coaching program, man, I dived deep. I was going really hardcore into the black hole, trying to figure out, what are the sweet spots? Like, what's the best way to redeem your points? And then over time, it kind of naturally progressed into, you know what? Real estate investors are actually in an ideal situation to leverage this kind of travel hacking strategy by using their regular expenses for business because as you know, like you can generate so many points and miles if you're doing renovations, if you're just paying for software to maybe do property management. There's so much opportunity just by being a real estate investor to get these points, which you could redeem for nearly free travel. So that's how that started.
So true. Yeah, I saw that when I bought my first two houses. I was like, I'm buying furniture. It's all on a credit card. I didn't know what credit card to get or any like, the ways that you actually can maximize your points. But 100% people in real estate or people that run ads, these
Yep,
people that spend like thousands of dollars a month on ads, they could be racking up
exactly.
round trip tickets to, everywhere.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. For someone who's just getting started, what is maybe a misconception that people have going into this travel hacking, space?
Good question. So I want to start off with like a mindset misconception because when I have conversations with real estate investors, they're always like, I want to build financial freedom through my real estate portfolio so that I can travel. So the actual misconception is thinking that you need to wait for financial freedom to start travel hacking, when in fact you can start travel hacking now, even with no properties. That's the misconception. You can do it now. You don't have to wait.
Okay, I just gotta ask. Let's dive into that. So how do you do it now without any properties?
So, for example, like if your strategy was, let's say, Airbnb arbitrage, have you heard of that? Where people essentially split the margin between leasing from a property owner and then putting it on Airbnb. There's so many regular expenses that go into that. So that's your software that you're using, whether it's your channel manager or maybe you're using project management systems. And then this is a huge hack that we do because I'm also a co-host as well. So what we do is we develop a relationship with the property owner and we say, hey, can we put all the expenses on our credit card? We'll do all the bookkeeping. And then at the end of the month, you just pay us back. And a lot actually like that. They're like, yeah, because instead of them continuously charging, approving any kind of expenses, we just essentially do it on our own. So we put all those expenses, the cleaner fees, right, the handyman, any kind of fixes for renovations, the supplies and restocking, we put that through our credit cards that earn like 2 points per dollar. And then essentially get back that reimbursement from the property owner. So that's a form of manufactured spend when you're earning points without actually having to spend your own money. So, just by doing that, you're essentially accruing so many points without owning any properties as a strategy that you could use for nearly free travel. And that's just one example.
I love that. I'm actually thinking about my own, cleaners, my landscapers, my pool guy. I think I just sell them. So
Yeah,
I'm wondering, I need to switch that and I need to use that credit card for everybody. So
exactly.
the credit card, obviously there's, what is it called? Processing fees.
Yeah.
So you still have to pay those, but instead it's worth it because you know how to leverage the points so well. Is that kind of the trade-off?
Exactly. And I would say you obviously at the end of the day, you don't want to pay more money, then that's unnecessary because we're real estate investors and we always want to make sure that we're making the most revenue possible. But one of the easiest ways that you know it's worth it for you is when you're hitting a sign up bonus. So, like when you open a new card and you could get like 60, 70, over 100,000 points in a sign up bonus, that's when it's worth it for you to pay those processing fees because maybe it's 3%, but all the points that you're going to get from that sign up bonus far outweighs those fees. On a regular basis, though, am I always going to pay processing fees? No, I always pick and choose to see what's worth it and what's not. But to give you an example, sign up bonuses are when you should absolutely do it.
I'm gonna get all the secrets out of you today. I'm
Let's do
excited.
it.
All right. Best credit cards for someone just starting.
Good question. That's the trusty Chase Sapphire Preferred. So that's a personal card. Okay. It's a very beginner friendly card because the annual fee is only 95 bucks. So it's not going to scare anyone away with like $700, annually. It's very low, it's very reasonable. But the magic part about that card is it gives you access to transfer partners. And that's where you could really start squeezing out as much value from your redemptions as possible. It doesn't just limit you to being in the portal. You could start transferring it to Air France, going to Europe, or to Hyatt to book your stays, right, for free. So that is the best beginner travel card. You ask anyone who's points and mile, they'll always say like, "Oh, it's Sapphire Preferred for sure."
Well, that's good because I got that one. I think that was my second credit card I got.
Nice,
let
nice.
me let me ask you this. So a lot of these questions are gonna be personal,
Sure.
but also I feel like a lot of people are in this position that I am. And I'm like, I gotta leverage all this because I've just been blowing money on travel without actually taking advantage of everything I could.
Mhm.
So, what about airline cards? My first one, for whatever reason, was a Southwest credit card. Do you believe in just using the Chase card so that you could, have all these different partners? Or you like, hey, be loyal to one because they're going to be loyal back and they're going to hook you up?
So this depends, but in general, for most people, you're gonna want to always start off with the bank cards that give you flexible currencies. So that is Chase, Capital One, Citi, those pure cards from the bank. So we were talking about sports earlier. Let's give an analogy, right? So the Sapphire cards, any of those cards that can transfer to partners, those are like the starting lineup. Those are the top five players on your team that can do everything. Essentially, right? You could transfer to different partners. They're going to get you more points to score higher to get that really like awesome win for a travel redemption. The airline co-branded cards, the hotel cards, those are your bench players. They're not starting because you're not going to get as much points from them, right? But they are unique in that maybe they're your defensive player, right? So they can be used once in a while, but to support, your starting lineup. So I would say always start with those credit cards that are from the banks that could transfer, and then, support them with those airline cards. However, if you truly just like are a loyalist and you feel like I fly American all the time because they have the most routes for where I fly or based out of my home airport, then go with American, right? But I wouldn't just rely on that because at the end of the day, it just keeps you stuck to that airline, and that airline might not always have the best value or redemptions.
What about what's the next step up? Someone got the Chase Sapphire card. Now, what's that next level? What's that next starter you want to put on that starting five?
The next one, so you typically, if you were going to be simplistic, right? Let's say we're being simplistic, it's always going to be a combination of like at least two cards. You're going to have one card that's like your main travel card, say like the Sapphire Preferred, and then you're going to have your workhorse card. And that workhorse card is the card that earns you points so that you can travel, right? So you want to use one card so that you have all these benefits while traveling, and then you need another card that helps you earn points so that you can travel. And if we were with Chase, if we're sticking with Chase, I would say the Chase Freedom Unlimited or the Chase Freedom Flex. And this is still on the personal side though. So essentially would be your setup, right? Personally to earn points so that you could travel. But if you're trying to like level up, again, it depends on the kind of experience you want. If you're bougie, if you want to go to those lounges, if you want to have a five-star experience, that's when you want to kind of look into the platinum card with American Express, right? That's what you want to do. But again, it really depends. So for me, I would always ask them, well, what kind of traveler are you? What are your goals? Because that's going to determine the car that best fits your lifestyle. So if you're telling me, oh, I like budget friendly travel, I just want to take my family on annual trips to Hawaii, then I would say just get the Chase Sapphire and then also one of the Freedom cards, the Freedom Flex or the Freedom Unlimited, and you should be good, right? Just putting all your spend on that and then introducing over the business cards because it's for your business as real estate. I would also do the Ink Unlimited because that one gives you a 75K sign up bonus. And then that card is just unlimited 1.5 points per dollar. So that's nice. But if you're telling me, Jesse, you're like, nah, I want to go to the lounges, I want five-star hotels, I want business class. Hey, you could still do that with Chase, but what's going to give you higher sign up bonuses are the Amex charge cards, which are the gold and the platinum, right? Just really depends on you as a traveler. And that's why I always come back with questions to best suggest what card fits the lifestyle and goals of a person.
So what if you're in between? Like, okay, I'm not going to stay at five-star, resorts every time I travel. This is a hypothetical person. I don't know a person like this, but let's
Mhm.
say they're about to travel tomorrow for like 4 months. And, they travel about 6 months out of the year. And maybe like two or three, overseas trips. And then they'll just travel while they're overseas. What about for someone like that? They like airport lounge access, but they're not going to be bougie and want to stay at, Ritz Carlton, five-star hotels every single place they go. What would you say is like the happy medium?
So the happy medium for me would actually be optimizing the card for your type of spend, because the medium is up to you to redeem what's medium for you. So if you don't want the 5 star, you can always still have more points, but just redeem it for medium hotels, like not as bougie, just fly economy. But genuinely, like for a business, you just at the always just want to earn the most amount of points possible for every expense that you're making. So that would be dependent on the card. So I would say let's do an American Express example, right? So again, I mentioned before, it's typically going to be like a couple cards in your infrastructure that gets you the most points. With American Express, the Amex Blue Business Plus is an excellent workhorse card. It gets you 2 points per dollar, up until $50,000 annually, and then either the gold, the business gold, right? So I'm going with the business out because we're real estate investors, right? Gold is for those like wholesalers or the people that run ads, because it earns 4 points per dollar on ads. So if you're running ads like 20,000 a month, you could literally get business class flights like quarterly just by your regular ad spend. And then the gold gives you access to the transfer partners, and it's $379 for the annual fee. Then it also gets you 4 points per dollar on dining. You having those business meals, you know what I mean? You're ordering takeout because you are not able to have time to do something. All those will generate so many points for you. So that's the medium, I would say. And then the step above that would be the Amex Blue Business Plus with the platinum. That's the more luxurious combo.
I love it. We're going to talk a little bit about transfer partners, but before we go there, two questions came to mind. What are some other perks of credit cards that people overlook? I forgot, like my car actually broke down the other day, and I was like, oh, I basically can get it for free if I call whatever number on the back, and they helped me out. It was a lot less stressful than trying to figure out myself and pay way more money. So there's little benefits, like I think Lyft subscription or Uber Eats is free for a year. There's little things like that I've noticed, but people forget. I forget. I never use any of those. What are some perks that you use that most people probably forgot about or don't know exist?
Great question. And I love this question because it shows how much value you get for the cards, right? Because people are tend to be kind of scared of annual fees. So for the platinum, one of the perks I love the most is the like complimentary Marriott gold status and Hilton gold status. At the end of the day, those hotel statuses are really low. But for people like me and you, Jesse, that maybe are a little bit more communicative, maybe can be a little bit charming, you could just work that low status and get upgrades. You know what I mean? Being nice and having some sort of status can get you higher than you think, because those hotel people that are at the front desk, maybe they're dealing with really bad customers and you just happen to be the first smile they see, and then all of a sudden you're in a suite now, right? So having that, yeah, so having that status 9 times out of 10 will get me a hotel upgrade, right? So now you're getting more value for your rooms. And for us who travel, it makes a difference when we have space to have an office area, right? To kind of have our setup instead of being in like a small room. That's cool. I got it for free. But if I just have that office desk, it makes all the difference in traveling and working at the same time. So I would say that. And then there's another one. This is particularly with the platinum. So it gets you a $200 airline fee credit, right? But technically, it can only be used for incidentals like baggage fees or maybe changing your seat. But what people don't realize, there's actually hacks that you could do with Southwest and with United, where you're actually able to essentially use the United Travel Bank to get $200 to use for a flight, or you could just buy Southwest flights that are less than $100. You buy two of those flights because you get the $200 airline fee credit. You actually you essentially like return those flights, but then you get the credit that you could keep and apply to flights. So for sure, people don't know how to do those ones.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
take a step back on the first thing you mentioned. So You go to the hotel, you already have a status. Sure, you're just like barely have the status, but you still have a little bit of status. What does that dialogue look like? What is that charm? Obviously, you hit them with a smile, and then what? And then what happens after that?
Well, first of all, I absolutely look at their name tag. So this is just me. If we're gonna talk about my style, right? They're like, "Hey, Jesse, just checking in. I'm here for two people, and this is our reservation." Like, "Okay, great. We have you in this room." Da 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 da. Right? They'll respond to me. I'd be like, "I was wondering, Jesse, is it possible at all with my gold status to get an upgrade on the room? We'd really appreciate it because we're celebrating an anniversary and would love to have a good time at this hotel." And then of course they're going to be like, let's see what I could do. While they're looking it up, they got to do some computer stuff. They're like, man, I really like that shirt. I don't even know what that shirt is. I can't see it right now, but I would try to compliment something while looking it up. I'd be like, man, I really like that shirt. Are you going to the game? And then I think that's what kind of shocks them too when I start talking about sports. So this just works for me, but I'm just trying to say, make that connection to let them see, like, hey, this is a really nice person. I want to help them. And then they'll be actually we can da, 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 da. And they might even go a step forward and be like, you know what, there's you don't typically get suite upgrades with the gold, complimentary status, but I've gotten it a few times just by being nice, smiling, and also saying I'm here for a particular occasion, whether it's a birthday, anniversary, anything.
Yeah. Well, this whole summer, my birthday is July 24th, so I think I
That's
could say it's my birthday the entire summer.
that's your ID. Really, I mean, they do check it, but she said I'm just
Yeah.
celebrating my birthday. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. Okay, maybe I should just do that for July. I'll get something, think of something else. Okay, so I did hear a while back this hack, which I like your because like for us, we're very personable. We like talking to people. We like for us, we actually like making people feel good. So if they smile but don't upgrade us, we're still happy. So I've heard this thing of slipping a 20 into
Oh,
like your passport, your ID, and then all of a sudden you get upgraded. Does that work? Have you tried that?
mean, I haven't tried it personally, but a lot
Yeah.
of people do apparently, and they can do it. It's always worth trying, especially if you're checking in like a weekday where it's not as busy. I would say it's
Mm-hmm.
a consideration. If you're checking in weekend and it's during the time a lot of people are checking in, still try. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just feel bad. They look at you like, really? You trying to bribe me with a 20? Oh
Right?
no. What about okay, here's another one.
Yeah.
Flight attendants on airlines. You
Mm.
walk in, I heard people, hey, give them a little gift card. There might be some extra shots coming your way during the flight. Have you ever done that, or is that a real thing? Or talk to me about that.
I mean, I've seen that. Like, I've seen people done that. I've seen reels where it has worked. So I would say just try if you want to get that upgrade. But the reason why I haven't tried it is because points and miles through my business has allowed me to get the seats that I want, that I didn't need to go that extra effort. That's
That
why.
makes sense. I like
Yeah.
that. Okay, what about last one before we go to transfer partners?
Yeah.
Flight delays, delayed luggage, or lost luggage. I'm sure because I've seen all the TikToks. Hey, if this
Mhm.
happens, like make sure you go to this desk and say this, and then you'll get $500. So,
Mhm.
is there? Have you experienced any of those kind of hacks, or airlines hooking you up when they delay a flight or lost luggage?
Personally, it hasn't happened, but I know that the Department of Transportation has created new policies where if it's after a certain time that your flight is delayed or they lose their luggage, you're entitled to certain compensation. So that would be more on the Department of Transportation side. And then on the airline side, if you use particular credit cards like the Amex Platinum, the Chase Sapphires Reserve, um, the higher, more premium travel cards, they will typically have any kind of like flight interruption, travel interruption insurance that gives you money during those situations. But this hack doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, or is in the process of being removed. There are certain airlines like Delta that used to give you points if your luggage took longer than 20 minutes to come out. And so that's how a lot of travel hackers would just fill out the form and just get extra points all the time, anytime they're flying Delta, whether or not their luggage is late. So yeah, so there's certain random ones like that as well. Mhm. Sure. So, a transfer partner is a relationship that a bank has with either an airline or hotel, which allows them to use the credit card points from that bank and usually a one-to-one transfer over to either the airline miles or the hotel points. What you see in the travel portal are not all transfer partners. That's just airlines and hotels that you can book with Chase or American Express or Capital One in their portal. A transfer partner is actually allowing you to transfer your points from the bank to that loyalty program of the airline or the hotel.
Got it. And then what does that look like? Because I know when you sent me the Loom video, it was
Yeah,
like this website to this website to this website. So maybe if you want to start, we can say what are the top three websites that need to be saved to your bookmarks, so then you can do this whole transfer partner thing and make it a little bit more easy.
absolutely. So, one of the best websites to start out with is a website called flightconnections.com. And it's actually that's something I used in your Loom video because what you're going to do is you're going to put your departure airport and your arrival airport, and flightconnections.com will show you which airlines fly those direct routes. Right. So, say for example, I think we were looking from Phoenix to Lisbon, and there really wasn't any direct route. But if you flew from LAX to Lisbon, it looked like, there were obviously TAP Portugal, as an airline that went straight. So, when you use that, then that shows you which airlines you could essentially use to go the direct flight to where your destination is. So, flightconnections.com. Then then I would compare that, say if you had Chase points with the Chase transfer partner. So unfortunately, Chase doesn't transfer to TAP Portugal, but they do transfer to like KLM Flying Blue, which is Air France. They also transfer to like Virgin Atlantic and Air Canada. All those airlines can essentially get you to Europe, right? So flight connections is something like most people don't even know that you could use. That's one. Number two is more of an article, and I want to do this because I actually cater this to the audience. It's for real estate investors because it's more like beginner. Um, and that would be if you just Google points guy, what are points worth? You'll find an article that gives you a breakdown of the value of each point, whether it's a credit card point or a co branded airline or hotel card point. Because what people don't realize is not all points the same. So let me give you an example. My friend came up to me and he was like, Jaina, I'm going to get the Hilton card because it has a 120,000 point sign up bonus. I know you said to get the Amex Gold for 90K, but shouldn't I get 120K instead? So I told him, I was like, yo, let me ask you the same question, but in a different way so you could understand. What if I said to you, hey, do you want 120,000 pesos or $120,000? Of course, they would pick dollars because American Express points are more valuable. You could get better redemption, transfer to different points to get more value out of your trips. So that's what that article shows you. Like the metric is called cents per point. Don't want to get too technical, but basically, if you're redeeming in the portal, you typically will get anywhere from 1 to 1.5 cents per point on each of your points. That's the value of your point. Whereas if you transfer your points, you would get 2 cents per point, 3, 4, 5, 10, above 10 cents per point, meaning you could. Exactly, huge difference. I could even give you another example. So when I went to Lake Como, I stayed at a five-star luxury hotel called Grand Victoria Hotel and Resort, and that if I booked in the portal through Chase, it was 230,000 points for 3 nights. But because I transferred my Chase points to Hyatt, it was 87,000 points for the same 3 nights, the same room. And that's one of the biggest mistakes is people, redeeming the portal only. Is the portal like sometimes a good deal? Yeah, it is sometimes, especially for domestic flights, but for hotels and international, your points go way further if you transfer them.
That's amazing. Do you have one more website to share?
Yeah, so Seats.arrow is my favorite award searching tool. It essentially allows you, and I showed you also on your Loom video, to put in like departure airline and the arrival, excuse me, airport, and it shows you which airlines have award availability for you to book that particular route and which points you use. Valuable,
Yeah, no,
valuable.
that was super valuable having that Loom video.
Cool.
So you do some consulting.
Yes, yes,
What
I do.
type of consulting is on top of everything that you do? You're also able to hook people up because what you did for me in that Loom video took you 5 minutes because your 10,000 hours of expertise, and that could save someone 50% of a ticket or more.
Mhm.
So it's super valuable what you're able to provide. So what does that look like? What does that look like for you being a consultant? What would you even call yourself? A travel hack consultant?
It depends. I just say like business funding and travel hacking consultant because it falls into a lot of just a lot of different variations. So, but essentially, I could do two things. So, what I've done for clients currently and in the past is for business owners that want to set up an infrastructure. They're like, Jaina, which credit cards do I need to open and what do I need to use them for? Is to essentially get the most points possible so that I could get nearly free travel. So, that is one time like consultation where I'm like, hey, get these credit cards because depending on your like what you're spending on, these credit cards will get you the most points. And then I'd be like, this is typically how you would redeem them. And I'll have them pick a destination of choice. And I would do like exactly what I did for you, like a Loom video. This is exactly how you redeem it based on the points. And then also for someone who wanted like a points portfolio retainer, I also do that where I just manage it. Because you asked me, like, is it worth it for people to spend a little bit more time? For some people, they just don't have the time, but they do want to use the points that they're already getting for their travel because as much as traveling could be a business expense, at the end of the day you want to not affect your bottom line as much as possible. You want to keep that money, so why not use the points that you're already going to get? So for those clients, what I do is just like I obviously keep strategizing, keep planning, keep earning as much points as possible. And they're like, Jane, I need to go to a conference in New York. I'm like, okay, this is how much points it's going to cost and let's book it. This is how you're going to get there. Or they'll be like, okay, Jana, I'm ready for my family trip to Hawaii. I was like, okay, you could get there in October, right? Just keep spending because we're looking at the trends of your points that you're earning through your business, and you could go there in October. Does that work for you? No, because the kids need to be on vacation, right? I was like, okay, how about Christmas vacation? Yes, okay, let's start planning for them, right? So it's based on the time. So if someone like they know how to do it, maybe they just want to start off and get that infrastructure. That's what I do. Or for someone who wants to be hands off but wants to just use the points regularly and optimize their spending to travel, I also do that as well.
That's amazing. Okay, so before people find out how to reach out to you, I want you to share a story of probably the most, kind of eye-opening story that you have that you're able to basically go for free and use points to travel to, this spot.
Sure thing. And that would be like my first business class flight. It was on Emirates, right? It was from JFK to Milan. But here's the thing. So I got one of my rental properties in a commercial loan. It was a subject to appraisal. So what they did was based on the renovations we were going to do, they essentially wrapped the renovation costs into the loan. And that way I didn't have to put a down payment. I just had to pay for the mortgage while it was being renovated. So they cut me a check for 26K and they're like, here, Jana, here's a check. This is what you use to pay the vendors. And I was like, you're just going to give me a check? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, hold up, let me do something with this, right?
You're like,
Let me
what card am I going to pay everybody with?
exactly. So I was like, I'm gonna open up cards to get all these sign up bonuses, put all the renovation costs and expenses on those cards as a pass through to collect all these points and then use that 26K to just pay it off. So I literally got an asset that's building me wealth, that's giving me cash flow, and a free luxury vacation to Lake Como on Emirates round trip on business class just because I knew how to leverage credit card points. So from that point, I was like, why don't more real estate people do this? Like seriously, this is wild. And people are doing way bigger projects than me. Like 26K for someone, they like do that weekly, you know? And I'm over here like, dude, this is what you could do. It's wild. You just need to know what to do.
That is wild. I've never heard of that. That's incredible. Okay, Jana, so many people are gonna be listening, and they're gonna be like, "I want to do this, or I want to have you as a consultant because I have all these points, and I might as well get free vacations out of it." So, how do people reach out to you? What's the best way?
I think the easiest way is to reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at Jaina underscore Ann. So JAINA underscore ANNE. If you just DM me there, I respond quickest there.
Let's go. And then I'm gonna ask you publicly so you can say
Oh,
yes. We have probably a masterclass coming up that I would love to do, kind of like a travel hacking masterclass for our online community. Would you be down?
100%.
Let's
100%. Just
go.
go. Let's go. I'm down.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for just being on the show today. This has been really fun. Like I'm standing up. Usually I sit down. I'm standing up right now just because I'm so excited to go travel. So I know other people listening are going to be fired up after hearing you be able to get a luxury vacation essentially for free by leveraging the credit card points. So Jaina, thank you again. Thanks for being a guest on the Growth House podcast.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Appreciate it.